Well, we're back in Sage Purgatory. It's weird that last year Sage was delayed by like 8 months, and when it was, well, let's just say we learned a lot that day. Well, it's a new year, asterisk, and that means we can start anew. Talk about new games that we've never seen before. Dang it. It's that time again, the time of year where we get good Sonic games. Well, I can't make that joke anymore. The yearly event Sage is back for the 23rd time in a row and has only been stopped once. As the #1 stop for fan games of the Sonic variety, along with tons of original independently developed games, I've made it my mission to cover the standout titles of each year the event is held. So, without further ado, let's begin with Sonic Horizons.
Oh, sorry sir, the game needs to boot up in order for it to be properly playable. Don't worry though, it shouldn't take too long. This computer can load up anything you throw at it.
Okay then, let's start with, you. Beep Bop the Beep Boop is a 3D platformer made by me. You play as Beep Bap, a toy robot made by a defunct company who sets out of the scrapyard he's left in to search for golden nuggets across the world he inhabits to put a stop to the evil Good People Incorporated.
You see, it's a play on words.
Can you please get off my screen? To help you retrieve these nuggets, you can use almost anything you find on your journey as a weapon to aid you in battle. Rocks, lids, and wheels can be used as shields, and sticks, banjos, and ears of corn can be used as swords.
So if I was Beep Bop, I would use this.
Ooh, can I use this water bottle?
Shut up, Cameron.
Aww.
Where are you all coming from? Each level has somewhat of a hub that's used as a means to hold nuggets. You need to collect as many as possible to progress through the game like a collectathon on the Nintendo 64, such as Banjo-Kazooie or Super Mario 64. The game has tons of different abilities too. Throughout the demo, you only really gain one move, this butt bounce that allows you to get into the swamp. However, when you finish the demo, you unlock access to the rest of the abilities that are set to be in the final game. All of these give more fluidity to an already fluid control scheme that the game possesses. Beep Bap is a game that oodles with charm and fun that I'm sure, when it's completed, will be up there as one of the greats in 3D indie platformers. But, I'm sorry, Luke. Celeste clears.
Oh please, you really think a double jumping speedrunner could beat something as peak as a little red robot?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Luke on this one. Beep Bap wins in this regard, but you know what Beep Bap can't compete with? Sonic Cyberspace.
No, Carson, Beep Bop would win that match any day of the week.
Oh yeah? How so?
Look, it's because Sonic the Hedgehog is like, it's not even
Spider-Man
that big
No
of a
Way
franchise.
Home
I
is a
think
really
Beep Bop
great
would be the
movie.
biggest
You're just
gaming
sick of
franchise
references
all
in
time.
this day and age
Fortnite
where
would be
everybody's
Sonic
just sick of third
Cyberspace.
wall.
Sonic Cyberspace is a short tech demo that sets out to recreate the feeling of cyberspace from Sonic Frontiers. The demo only includes a recreation of 1-6 from Frontiers and actually has better controls. Congratulations, Sonic Cyberspace! You passed the bare minimum! Although, despite that, my controls somehow still lock up on random occasions. It's only really noticeable when on a spring, but it's still there. Then there's the art direction. There isn't any. Like, you have these sprites for Sonic that are based off of Sonic Advance, then you have these Green Hill assets from, I don't know, scratch. I get this is a work in progress and it'll definitely be better later, but it's still something that bugs me. That was a burp. Something that's really sick visual-wise is the dynamic camera that pans around the stage as you go down automatic sections. It's a really cool touch that I haven't really seen any other fan game do. Sonic Cyberspace overall is a really decent start that could definitely become something fantastic in the future.
Thanks for the ego boost. It really helps.
Where are you all coming from?
Wait a minute, you've already talked about this game, X-Pool.
If I had a nickel for every time I've talked about Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit, I'd have 3 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that I've tripled the normal number of times, right? I'm not gonna rant about this game all over again since I've done it twice now, but TLDR, it's the best classic Sonic game, and because of that, it's probably better than your breakfast this morning. The game was completed over a year ago, however, the developer, Noah, the master of coping, wasn't done with the game just yet, as he shadow dropped a patch for the game that adds a few new features. The main new thing to discuss is the addition of Amy Rose as a playable character. She's definitely the most interesting character as she has 3 different movesets. Her Sonic Origins moveset, her Superstars moveset, and her moveset from Sonic 3 Air. She was in that game? Each moveset has you press the jump button twice for her to pull out her hammer. The 3 Air moveset has her bouncing off the ground to jump higher. This sucks. The Origins moveset is similar to her moveset in Sonic Origins, but it's actually not. They lied to you. She doesn't pull the hammer on a single tap. Rather, you have to hold down the button to activate the drop dash, and even then, the hitbox isn't big enough to make a difference in combat. The hammer doesn't even work against bosses. The Superstars moveset is definitely the best of the bunch. Amy's given a double jump, and her hammer's moveset speed is based on her speed going up and down slopes. Despite how great the Superstars moveset is, though, in each moveset, Amy feels oddly heavy compared to her appearances in Origins and likely Superstars. Because of that, I really don't see myself playing as Amy in this game very often. No matter how mediocre Amy is, though, Triple Trouble 16-bit is still the best classic Sonic game, and you're not going to change my mind.
Don't you think Sonic 4 is a good game?
Didn't you cheat in a Sonic racing competition? Shangmu Architect was a game that I covered a few years ago, and many of my opinions still apply today. It's fun to platform around the areas and break all the targets. In this update, there's a campaign with actual Freedom Planet inspired levels and bosses that, depending on who you play as, range from super easy to hemorrhoids. Spade, from the first Freedom Planet game, is playable now with cards that he can shoot at enemies and a dash that makes platforming really fun. I am not biased whatsoever. Platforming as a whole, no matter who you're playing as, is just a lot more fun than I remember it being. There are really cool set pieces and tricky sections that are pretty challenging to get past without getting hit. The game is overall still really fun. I just wish the bosses were a bit more understandable as the other characters. That or I just really suck at this. Oh, and there's also a Sally Acorn skin for some reason. You guys wanted the Freedom Fighters and more games? Well, here you go. Next up, we've got Sonic Test Labs. Test Labs is a really cool tech demo with this really sick art style. The controls themselves are a bit heavier than I'd like though, and there are moments where I died and it didn't really feel like it was my fault. Make Sonic a little bit lighter, keep the moves the same with the homing attack and the light dash and such, and fix those weird moments and you're golden. The set pieces in this game's stages are absolutely freaking incredible. You've got an oil rig that Sonic has to escape before it explodes, live footage of California where Sonic needs to run from military pursuit and does so by sometimes tunneling underground, all before jumping onto a plane and falling to the ground, and that's it. The level design in these stages are somewhat basic, but the set pieces definitely make up for it. Sonic Test Labs gives an absolutely fantastic first impression, but is clearly not finished enough to give anything more than that. However, there is hope. Tangle and Whisper are said to be the two other playable characters in the game. I'm telling you, you have the opportunity to make a peek here. You do not understand.
Hey, check out this time machine I found.
Oh, silly Caleb. That's not a time machine. That's a 32X.
Can you guys not interrupt me for like 2 minutes? Project 32X is somewhat of a recreation of the animated demo of a Sonic 32X game that never saw the light of day. Yes, out of all of the recreations of the long-lost 32-bit Sonic game, this is definitely one of them. Made in Blender, this is certainly a really interesting recreation. It doesn't exactly take level design from the demo, it rather takes its own spin on what is already established, making somewhat of a demo of its own thing. You start out with 2 levels of this grassy area and then move into this vaporwave-like area that only contains 1 level. It's really bare bones, only having a jump and a spin dash as abilities, but for what it strives to accomplish, it's a great reimagining. Next up is Sonic Origins Plus. Ah, I see you're putting in the wrong game. We did the same joke last year. Put Origins back in the trash because today we're talking about Sonic McOrigins Plus. Last year, Sonic McOrigins was a standout for remastering the masterpieces that were the Sonic McDonald's LCD games from 2004. However, there were a few noticeable missing titles in the collection that prevented it from becoming the definitive way to play these games. Fear not, as Sonic McOrigins Plus has come to save the day with Amiens Rouge Volleyball, Shadow Hockey, and Shadow Basketball. These are some of the greatest LCD games to ever grace the video game market, and the day these were added to the collection will be one to remember for decades to come. There are a few quality of life improvements as well, such as touch controls, a new Android port of the game, and the option for having the legendary Pakistan announcer from the commercial reveal each game as you play them. Sonic McOrigins Plus is one of the standouts in many Sonic collections and is, without a doubt, worth your time. Well, now that we've covered a good few games, let's check how Sonic Horizons is doing. What is happening to the computer?
I don't know, I had the game running for a bit to prepare itself and my computer started to lose free storage. Now it's grown in size and I don't know what to do.
Oh, we gotta play this game quick. Who knows how long it's gonna take until the computer explodes?
You know, if I had a nickel for every time something life-threatening happened at Sage in my afterlife, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but, you know, it's kind of weird that it happened twice.
I've been waiting to try this game since I walked into the building, and I am not going to leave until I try it. Sonic Horizons. Fun suffering. Sonic Horizons takes a lot of inspiration from Sonic Frontiers. It's an open-ish world platformer where you open portals to smaller Sonic-like levels that you have to complete in order to progress. However, there are portions where you have to collect these crystals in these areas that you would never have guessed that they would be hidden in, and in order to access those areas, you need to pull off stunts that don't really feel like they're meant to be done in a normal playthrough. Those smaller levels are also butchered. While their level design is really good, requiring an S rank to progress negates all possible replay value and adds unnecessary difficulty to the game. Many parts of Horizon's progression feel unbalanced to new players when it really doesn't need to be. The movement in this game is actually really solid. It's more pinball based than the game it's based on. It's got actual physics, a spin dash, momentum, yeah I said it. There's also this bouncing move that's a great means of getting to higher ground, but it's a death sentence in platforming sections. Then there's the wall run that debuted in last year's year's demo. It's definitely more polished than before, but it still needs a bit of work before its full potential is released. The overall control is great, but everything around it feels like it needs more work. It's muddling and confusing. Don't even get me started on the loads of bugs in the game. The game soft-locked on multiple occasions, whether it was from random reasoning or because the terrain locked Sonic into a loop for falling into the air. There are tons of visible walls too that, when you move near them, will have Sonic go at blistering, uncontrollable speeds when landing off of them. Then there's the reason we're all panicking today, the memory leak. Because the game logs every single error involving the Discord Rich Presence feature found in the game, and that feature doesn't work properly, causing countless errors, the file including these logs increases very quickly, and by the time that you play for nearly an hour, you'll have nearly 20 gigabytes of free storage completely nuked from your computer until you realize that the file has increased in size and actually are able to delete it. There was a patch that did remove most of these bugs, as well as make adjustments to the difficulty I mentioned earlier, but I still don't know why this game had to release in the state it did, and also, the computer is about to explode! Sonic Horizons has tons and tons of potential. It's got fantastic physics, controls, great new ideas, fun level design in the border levels, and tons more. But the open world design, progression, and all the bugs need to be polished up before I can call this something.
Yeah, this computer is definitely done for. If I were to have any final words, I'll say that anyone who's ever owned Sonic Heroes is not invited to my possible funeral.
Okay, before this thing blows up, does anyone want to admit they have a crush on me?
Hey, Froggun. In 2021, I discussed Froggun, and at the time, new indie game that had just started development. 2 years later, it was released on multiple platforms, and now has a sequel in development that has a demo at this year's Sage, Froggun Encore. I originally thought this was DLC for the original game, but no, this is a wholly new game. The game stars Renato once again, now preventing the return of the Beelzebub. I never played the full version of the game, I have no idea what's going on. Whatever the case may be, they're bad, and we gotta put a stop to them before they make a big comeback, Minecraft style. The game is very similar to its previous counterpart, but now we're going through new areas like this village, a sand temple, and the controls are nearly identical to the first game, where you have to use your frog gun to attack enemies, throw objects, and cling to walls, but Renata has a few new abilities up her sleeve. She now has the ability to aim her frog gun at will instead of it just being a target that's always on screen. She also has this double jump that can really help in performing areas. The new abilities are great additions to an already solid control scheme, and I can't wait to see how they're used in the final game. Froggun Encore is really simple, but really effective. It's just more of the original Froggun, which is already a great thing in its own right, but now it has more abilities and more areas to help it stand out and not just feel like a reskin of the original game. I'll definitely try to pick this up as soon as I can, unlike what I did with the original game. Maybe someday Froggun 1. Someday. Well, that was Sage 2023. Honestly, it was kind of lacking in the Sonic portion of the Sonic Amateur Games Expo. A lot of the highlights of the year were from the original non-Sonic outings, which a lot of people see as a bad thing, but honestly, that should be celebrated. Many of these games were still made by fans of Sonic games. Heck, some were even made by developers of previous Sonic fan games. Don't get me wrong, there were still great fan games this year, but a majority of the ones noted by players were made with an original property. Some of which I didn't even cover. Whether you prefer Sonic fan games or not, you can't deny that creativity shined this year. The Sonic and Sonic Amateur Games Expo shouldn't be seen as a crutch that only allows people to make Sonic games. It should be a foundation that helps push developers forward to achieve new peaks that they possibly couldn't have imagined before. Sonic being the highlight or not, this year's Sage was just like the rest, filled with talented creators coming together to share their love for their creations. And now that we've covered some of the highlights of the year, I think we can all come together to share our love for this event by rebuilding the expo so next year can be even better.
Nah, bro, we're out of here. We're not rebuilding all of that.
Sage? Ha! More like Gage?
Oh, he did it! He did a thing! Oh
my gosh!
Yeah, Gage!
Gage.
Yeah, cool!
Well, at least this is better than Death Row. Well, at least Sage is going to be better than this.